Okay. So, um, so I asked you to watch a TED Talk presentation, right? Um, and I would like to, well, you already watched Tales of Passion by Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende. Um, this will, of course, relate to what somehow Crenshaw, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw is saying during her TED Talk that you are to watch and then submit your answers to for the class. So I was remembering that, do you remember the names of some feminists that Isabel Allende mentions in her own TED Talk? Do you remember any names? It may be difficult. I'm just in case you remember any of those names. Okay, because there are some prominent, at least one prominent feminist from the United States that she mentions. Um, and I would like to show you two videos right away in relation to that feminist. Her name is, well, you'll see, Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem. And if you don't know the name, I thought my students should know about her, should know her at least. Okay. Let me see. So I have to share my screen. And I will show you first a video that puts the character in context. Here you have Gloria Steinem and one more activist. Her name is Dorothy Pittman. Huge, okay? They did a series of lectures across the country in the 70s, probably 1970 to be more precise, okay? And so here you have them both side by side, good friends, going on a tour, of the country, talking about issues pertaining to women's rights in the United States.
Radical, activist, rebel, the most visible symbol of the women's liberation movement, Gloria Steinem. Her words galvanized the feminist revolution of the late 1960s, addressing not only gender, but racial oppression, accepting lesbians and women of color, and advocating for women's reproductive freedom. She famously said, "The truth will set you free. First, it will piss you off."
I mean, that really gets to me. I guess maybe it's worse than I think.
Quick-witted and unapologetic, her message could not be ignored. But Steinem didn't start out as a revolutionary activist. She moved to New York City in the early 60s, looking to establish a career in journalism, writing freelance for magazines like Esquire, the Ladies' Home Journal, and the New York Times. Steinem was confined to topics considered women's interests by the editors. Gloria's writing garnered national attention in 1963 when Show magazine ran her expose entitled A Bunny's Tale. Steinem's two-part series blew the whistle on the working conditions of Hugh Hefner's New York Playboy Club and chronicled her undercover experience as a Playboy bunny.
And she's got to learn to put her back into it before she can join the accomplished ranks of top-line bunnies.
Although Steinem's work exposed the sexual harassment and discrimination of Playboy's female employees, it did little to bolster her career as a respected journalist. Gloria said, "I think the low point for me was walking into Life magazine for a serious assignment and being told by the editor, 'We don't want a pretty girl, we want a writer, go home.'" In 1969, after covering a public hearing on abortion that was disrupted by women wanting to share their stories, Gloria's connection to the movement deepened. Steinem herself had had an illegal abortion at the age of 22 and never told anyone.
My experience was not just mine, but an almost universal female experience.
Steinem spoke out publicly, participated in demonstrations, and challenged the opposition head on. In 1971, Steinem and a group of other journalists started their own magazine. They called it Miss. It was the first periodical ever created, owned, and operated by women. By the mid-70s, Gloria was a bona fide feminist icon and the face of the movement. For 50 years, Gloria has fought for women's rights and opportunities in the United States and abroad. She is the founder of more than a dozen nonprofit organizations, a best-selling author, the executive producer and host of the Emmy-nominated series Woman, an avid supporter of pro-choice policies, and the recipient of the 2013 Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 2017, Gloria was at the helm of the single largest day of demonstration in United States history, the Women's March on Washington. In front of a crowd of over 500,000 people, 83-year-old Steinem approached the podium and delivered a message of hope and empowerment. We are here and around the world for a deep democracy that says we will not be quiet. We will not be controlled. Through her fierce activism, Gloria has ensured that the fight for women's equality will continue as a new generation, inspired by her life's work, takes up the cause and marches forward.
So that's in a nutshell, Gloria Steinem's life, right, and activism. So as I was saying, I don't think is there anybody, let me see, trying to come in? Yes, 2 people. Okay. So I was saying that Isabel Allende mentions this name because she saw Gloria Steinem, I believe, in Europe when she was invited to the Olympics to carry the flags of different countries, along with some prominent women from the world, right? So that's the first video I wanted to show you. And this, the person who was in the picture with her then was this woman, Dorothy Pitman Hughes, feminist, notice child welfare advocate, African-American activist, public speakers, and more, co-founder of Ms. Magazine. We have 2 lives coinciding and joining together as feminists. And I thought it was interesting to show you also something about her life, about the life of Dorothy Pitman Hughes. It says that she became, she made a decision about becoming an activist, given what took place to her dad. When Dorothy was 10 years old, her father was beaten and left for death on the family's doorstep. The family believes it to be a crime committed by the Ku Klux Klan members, as you can see. Hughes decided as a child, in reaction to her family's experiences, she will devote her life to improving the circumstances of people through activism. And that's what I think she did. And now I was thinking, this morning I was listening to the radio and they were talking about the caring of children and how that must be understood as a profession. Those are providers for an essential task, right? And nowadays with the pandemic, we know how important that has become. So notice what it's saying here. And with this, I finish about her. In the late 1960s, needing care for her own children, Pitman Hughes organized a multiracial cooperative daycare center on the West Side, which would be profiled by New York Magazine columnist Gloria Steinem, and that's how they met. Okay, that's how they met. So though Gloria Steinem did not grow up in New York City, she adopted the city, and now I guess we can call her a New Yorker. So my second video will be this one of Gloria Steinem now talking to us about her autobiography that she wrote. So here we go.
Has been in the forefront of the women's movement in this country for more than half a century. Now at 81, she has penned her memoir, My Life on the Road, our newest addition to the NewsHour bookshelf. She talked to Jeffrey Brown recently at the historic Sewell Bell.
Professor, you're not sharing your screen.
I'm
of
not.
the women's
Oh,
suffrage and
sorry.
equal rights movement here in Washington.
Oh,
You
thanks
right
for
here
telling
early on
me.
about
I guess we need to do that, right? Where do we have it? Okay. So this is the news PBS hour, and he will be interviewing her. Here we have the conversation.
your father, who taught you something through his, quote, ability to live with and even love insecurity. That's an interesting trait.
Well, it certainly was necessary for a freelance writer like me, but I didn't know that at the time. I just thought that's the way life was. And he always said, if I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, it could be wonderful.
And that became your life in a sense, or
Well,
something you could live by?
Not quite, because of course you want to be like the other kids, you know. So I looked at the movies and I saw how kids went to school and fathers had jobs, and you know. But my parents were, you know, kind and loving and wonderful people. So I was lucky in that way. And I, of course, didn't know yet that the idea of living with insecurity would be really helpful in later life, both as a writer and a person in movements.
You write a book about a life on the road. When you look back now, does it look like it was a life that you chose, or did it just happen, unfold?
You know, that's a deep question.
Good.
I think both, because what we grow up with feels like home. So in that sense, it was destined. But I also spent all the middle years of my life assuming that I would have to settle down and live like everybody else. And it was only after I had been living this on-the-road life for quite a long time, I mean, until I was 50, that I realized, wait a minute, this isn't just something on the way to something else. This is it.
This is it. This is who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, well, I think in a real way, because my father had no home. I mean, he was a total wanderer. And my mother had no journey of her own because she had to give up the career as a writer and a journalist. And, you know, she kind of gave up everything she loved. So it took me a while to realize that it isn't either or, it's and.
What about today? Do you see the same commitment, the same focus in young women?
Oh, yes, more, way, way, way more. We were like 12 crazy ladies in the beginning. I mean, you know, we were definitely the core of something, but not the something. And now all of these issues are majority issues. And young women are way more likely to just assume that they're going to be able to use all of their human talents. In fact, they get radicalized as they get older, because they get into the labor force and they discover that maybe equal pay is not happening.
So the idea that we're in a post-feminist society?
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
You know who's saying that? I can guarantee you they're the same people who were saying to me in the beginning, you can't do this, it's against God, Freud, somebody. And now the new form of obstructionism is to say, well, it's over. You know, just to keep you from doing anything more. It's so just begun.
The book tells about many successes along the way. I'm wondering about what you think of as the greatest failures.
The confidence to tell the truth about our lives. Well, for instance, 1 in 3 American women has needed at some time in her life an abortion. And there's still enough shame to it, or you know, controversy at least, so that it's difficult for people to say that.
When you look at things like abortion rights, outlawing discrimination in the workplace, a lot of successes along the way, but even now on the defensive in some areas, right? As these battles unfold in state houses, they continue to unfold.
Well, yes, I mean, essentially the people who are against reproductive freedom kind of lost what they wanted in Washington. So now they are striving to gain it in state legislatures.
But opponents of these things, and this has been the case for all of your life, I'm sure, come to these issues with the same certainty that you do, the same sense of being right as you.
Well, but here's the difference. We are protecting their rights. we are protecting, with reproductive freedom, protects the right to have children. They are not protecting our right to decide when and whether to have children.
Let me ask you finally, are you able to imagine yourself as a young woman in today's society? You're with young women all the time. You're still talking to them.
Yes,
what advice do you give to them?
Here's my advice. Do not listen to me. Really.
Do not.
No, I want to support their listening to themselves. Each of them has things that they love, things that they do that they love so much they forget what time it is, which is a good measure when they're doing it. They know their own life and situations. I'm here to support that and say, you're not, okay, you're not more important than somebody else, but you're not less important either.
All right. My Life on the Road, Gloria Steinem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, Isabel Allende in her own TED Talk was mentioning some feminists, some prominent women from across the world, and one of them was Gloria Steinem. So I decided that she was so important for feminism and for the United States that I at least should show you something pertaining to Gloria Steinem. But in addition, if you take a look at the two videos, somehow, since the issues of women are so prominent, so important for what she's done, and we are reading plays by women from Latin America and now one American from Puerto Rico, then we can make a clear connection between the vision, right? The vision these women writers have pertaining to the situations women may go through and the conflicts and the complications. And we saw one character, female character in Rosa, in the play Yankee, having to somehow determine her own destiny by saying to Alberto and Bill, both of you are my children somehow. She was trying to respect the situation of Bill, right? And she was also having to, in the end, to say to Alberto, respect me. You cannot mistreat me. You cannot just think that I am a person somehow servicing you, right? Complying all the time with you. And that triggered a commotion in the play that we were studying. In the end, I think it leads to the emergence of this full conflict between Alberto and Bill, because there is nobody in between, right, to soften that kind of masculine relationship, which ends up as masculine, quote unquote, as a violent scene, right? And I put masculine between quotations because I'm not trying to say that masculinity has to go with violence, right? Has to go that way. I'm just saying that the play is using all these characters to show us the complexity of relationships, right? Yankee in particular. So that's the way, and the question for us today would be probably, so how is Teresa Marichal Lugo, our Puerto Rican playwright, going to depict a conflict, the critical situation women are going through in her own play, right? In this case, we only have two characters. So if we think about conflict, and we were saying that conflict, it's the core, right? Passion, if you will, the core energy of a play, the well-written play. Without conflict, without conflict, we don't have, right, the something that lead us to that energy that needs to go to a climax and then a resolution. But the conflict, it's triggers in us the question as to what is happening here? Why are these characters, fighting each other? And what are their motivations? And in the end, which force is most likely to win? A good play, and this will be a good example to this play, most likely a good play should surprises, in the sense that we like a good thriller, right? With some twists that we were unexpected as such, right? Twists. So I think that's the beauty of this play as well, that we have a major twist and that will provoke something in the audience, which again, let me mention the word, maybe catharsis, right? Catharsis. Talking about that word, can somebody remind me of the meaning of that word, catharsis, or one definition maybe? I'm going to say, Jorge, can you help us out? Catharsis.
I'm not really sure. I don't really remember.
Okay, catharsis is a dimension of a good tragedy that was highlighted by our philosopher from Greece, ancient Greece, Aristotle. So there is no tragedy without catharsis. There is no catharsis as understood by Aristotle without an excellent tragedy. I'm not defining it so far. I need help. I'm going to say Jimena. Catharsis.
I'm trying to find it in my notes. I'm pretty sure I wrote it down.
Catharsis has to do with the relationship between the play, what is happening on a stage, and the audience. Let me give you a hint, okay? Because remember, we don't read plays. Maybe Shakespeare, because they teach it. Maybe nowadays in high school, still they teach it. And we know it's poetry. Somehow we understand it as poetry along with drama, right? Or comedy. But in here, what I'm trying to say is you don't have tragedy without representation, right? You don't have tragedy without performance. You don't have drama without play, comedy without play, stage, actors, directors, and so on and so forth. And of course, if you have people on the stage, actors, you have audience, because you are doing this for an audience. It's like playing the violin, you're not gonna play it endlessly just for yourself. So nobody?
Well, isn't like it's the purification or cleansing?
That's more or less one of a couple of words that I gave you. Yes.
Right. So then I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It's kind of like pent up emotions, and then just it just kind of exploding at some point.
Yes. How does that relate to community though? And play. I agree with that. Okay, I'm not disagreeing. Anybody else?
Isn't it almost like after the climax?
Yes, because the release of emotions must happen when we see the tragedy, the full tragedy experienced by the protagonist. Let's say in this case, Bill, more or less, okay? But Yankee is a contemporary play, I said, so it's not like the typical tragedy from Greece. But we know it's kind of based on the model of those plays. It's a tragedy, right? It's a tragedy. Yes, I would agree with that. See, this is what happens for the Greeks. The tragedy, right? The best kind of play, according to Aristotle, because comedy is not, right? Tragedy is because of your protagonist. Remember that we said the protagonist must be like a king or queen, so a decisive icon personality for your community. And that's why when we experience the fall of the character on a stage, right? We go through this emotional stage ourselves. The play is pulling us in, right, with everything we have, And the play has been representing something important for the community, for our community. And therefore, when, as Megan is saying, when we see, you know, the tragedy happening to the character, we relate. And since we relate, this cleansing of the conflict that is experienced by the community happens. And that's what we call catharsis. Up to the extent, Aristotle had the idea that catharsis would be a way of maybe of teaching the community how to deal with conflicts that are not easy to solve. And so what do I mean by that? For instance, remember Bill, right? How do we deal with trauma? How do we deal with experiences, extreme experiences of people who, for example, have been to wars and fighting? And how do we deal with experiences, historical experiences, such as the Vietnam War, right? That were very conflictive, that were not easy to handle for the community, that were tremendously painful for people. So what the playwright does is to put that on the stage, throw it at you, expose you to that, okay? And let you, or let me put it simply, you know, let you cry, okay? Physical release of emotions, right? Catharsis. But I never said that it was only physical release of emotions, because we know, I said also that we have tear jerkers, right? Movies that will make you cry. That's mostly what they do, okay? And that's okay. If you want to enjoy that, that's fine. But no, Aristotle had something more interesting in motion here, right? He said, this will be a cleansing of emotions pertaining to the tragedy of the community somehow, right? A conflict that is very difficult to tackle. I'm going to put on a stage and I'm going to make you process it. Not necessarily thinking that we can resolve the conflict, okay, up to extent, because we have tragedy, okay? The resolution is tragic. For us, the resolution perhaps should be ideal, right? No, now nobody dies. No, nobody suffers. No, nobody experiences pain, okay? But pain can be productive here for the plays, okay? So catharsis, it's an important element of a tragedy for that reason. We need to cleanse the community's spirits, okay? How do we do it? Well, songs, right? Maybe paintings, maybe movies nowadays, novels, right? Short stories, anything else that you can think of as an artistic experience. But for Aristotle's, there was one major artistic representation for his community, the Greek community. And that was, without comparison, okay? For him, tragedy, okay? Questions? Okay, I hope that is helpful to you to give you a sense as to the significance of tragedy for us somehow. Okay, so here we have the pages for this week, and here you have the assignments, right? And so I was asking you to read Evening Walk for today. Let's go over that right now. To watch also the monologues, very fun to watch, okay? Because this is in preparation for your presentation, October presentation. And then for Thursday, we have, again, we'll come back to finish Evening Walk. And I need you to let me know which one will be which monologue will you choose for your presentation. How will you know that? Because after this class, I will post the monologues, okay? So you can shoot me an email, okay? But I would rather you take a look at the pages and kind of get a sense of what is going on and choose a monologue. If you don't choose, I'll choose for you, okay? I'll think of you and do my best to give you a monologue. It's not that many that we have, okay, available. Any questions about that? If not, we continue. Okay, so on to our play. Okay, second play. So as I said before, here we have a Puerto Rican playwright. I was trying to look for a video of the play in case I could find it. And I did not find one, but I did find several videos of Teresa Marichal Lugo. And she is very well known for being a storyteller, okay, which is becoming a profession in Latin America. Many people, I mean, it depends maybe on the country, but I know about Chile, for instance, where I'm from originally, a good number of people are making a living out of being storytellers, and they tell stories for children. Well, and that actually, it's been very popular, I think, in the States and also in Canada, as far as I know, okay? So please, let's go to page 191. So we have two characters only, okay? 191, beginning of the play. We have Gertrudis. That's the way I would say the name, Gertrudis. But you can go Gertrudis if you like, okay? Gertrudis, Gertrudis, not Gertrudis, but Gertrudis. So, and then the mother, or if you want to call Gertrudis the writer, that's fine, okay? Because that's what she is, according to the play. So we begin with a terrifying scene, right? On a stage, two women, one of them is rocking a baby carriage, and the other one is standing on a wooden box. In the background, a gigantic photo of a woman in a bathtub full of bubbles. One of her arms is hanging out, and her wrist is slit, okay, cut. So bleeding must be happening in this picture, right? Any other suggestion you think about this possible picture? What is the picture suggesting to you? If the woman's arm is slit.
She committed suicide.
Yes, that's indeed the suggestion, right? What the picture conveys. Now, notice it's not a man, it's a woman, okay? So that should matter. And on a stage, we have no men, it's only two women, okay? Two women characters, two female characters. So if I am coming to the theater, right? The curtains open, and then all of a sudden I see that picture, I'm sure that I'm looking at it, first of all, and kind of wondering what's going on, right? Why do we have this specific picture on a stage? And then the characters speak their lines. I need for, I'm going to say, I would like to say, Megan, could you start us with off with what Gertrudis is saying?
At a distance, you could see the sun setting, dusk was falling, the sea reddening with death before the skittish glaze of the fishermen who could still see, far away, the bodies of the shipwrecked, floating on the waters already calmed of their fury. And those who survived the terrible disaster recalled the last words that were screamed. Hang the windows, raise the flags and sails, chop off their heads once and for all. Everyone must be decapitated. Slavery was reaching earth. Spit on each other. Yes, spit on each other.
Thanks. Then mother says, excuse me, would you please speak softer? The baby is sleeping. Excuse me, could you please speak softer? The baby is sleeping. It's sleeping, my baby. Okay, can you speak softer? Because it seems that the writer is almost like on a play, right? On a stage, like overacting and presenting already a performance to us. And what is this performance about? Anybody? Max, do you have any idea? No answers, so I'm going to Lindsay.
Read Gertrudis.
Yes. What do you think is she talking about here? Because it's confusing.
Yeah.
It is confusing, and it's meant to be confusing, Lindsay.
Yes.
Any ideas?
Is she like reading a poem out loud?
It looks more or less like a, very dramatic poem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me give you another idea. A poem like a vision, like a, that they say sometimes that poets are like seers, that they see stuff. They have visions. Yeah, poetry like a vision like a poetry, poem like a vision somehow of something. And is this a beautiful vision?
No, not really.
Yeah. So what kind of vision is this? How would you characterize it?
Very gruesome.
There you go. Yes. There seems to be violence. And so it's kind of horrific. And if it is not a dream, then it should be a nightmare of sorts, right? So this that kind of a poem. Like maybe if you go to, I've never been to one, okay? But if you go to a punk type of concert, maybe, okay? They will blast those instruments and will make you shock, right? Something like that. I'm just trying to compare, right? I'm just trying to compare. Maybe that wasn't the best comparison. I'm sorry. So yeah, so we have something gruesome happening. I think there is an allusion here to something gruesome because we have corpses, it seems, reaching shore, and there's a mention to bodies, right? Of the shipwrecked. And also notice the allusion to something else here. Slavery was reaching Earth. So there is the suggestion here that in this boat that maybe we had slaves, okay? Maybe some of those bodies are the bodies of slaves. But it's confusing. I am not saying that it is necessarily exactly that, okay? As a nightmare, nightmares are confusing as well, maybe sharp. Some of them are very sharp, some dreams that we have. But I think it's meant to be, the vision is meant to be confusing, okay? And that's the good of it, okay? Like with Bill, the uncertainty. Did he go to Vietnam? Did he go to to Quebec? Did he stay in the States? What happened, right? This is good. This is good for poetry, for plays, and so on and so forth. Okay, but then we get this answer. Notice, excuse me, okay? I am here with my baby. Here is my carriage. Why are you yelling out your poem, your thing, okay? And then they start a conversation, and notice how mother repeats the same sentence. The baby is sleeping. It's like an obsession of sorts, or kind of a routine that she goes through, okay, with people. And so she keeps saying the same, please sing softer. And then we begin the conversation. they talk about page 192, evening, right? And then we know that Gertrude is a writer. She says it on page 192. I am a writer, writing a novel, writing stories. And then mother goes, oh, a writer? No wonder. What? Nothing, just no wonder, okay? And a crucial sentence happens, in my view here, page 193. You also think I am crazy. Why also? Jaylene, why also? She could have said, you think I'm crazy. But she said, you also think I'm crazy. Why also in here?
Point out that she's a writer, but also she is crazy. That she has those two characteristics to her.
Okay. Well, I have the inkling that maybe she's saying that whenever she approaches people the way she is, that you are characterizing her, people think this woman is crazy. This person is crazy. Okay. So this gives me a hint as to previous communications, you know, previous interactions with people, right? Everybody, not just you, think I'm this way, okay? No, I don't. That's not what I meant, says the mother, right? But you said it. No, I haven't said anything. I only, and the three dots, right? Shut up. I didn't mean to. You meant it, you said it, I heard you. But the mother never said it, okay? Just to begin with. So we have the two going in a conflict, minor, right? Like there is no communication, right? If the writer is saying, you said it, but the mother never said it, and she's trying to say something, the mother, but she doesn't get to say it because the writer stops her, cuts her short, right? And then we go with, she's unemployed, the writer, on page 193. And then the mother down below, forgive me. And notice the reply, no, I cannot forgive you. I don't feel like it. And here we have an interesting monologue by the writer. So I'm gonna ask somebody to read. Kels, could you please read page 194? So the writer is saying to the mother, no, I'm not going to forgive you. I don't feel like forgiving you. Or maybe I don't forgive people. Okay, let's see what she says. Page 194.
I've been forgiving all of my life. Do you think I look like God? No, God's a man. I'm a woman. God is old. I'm young. God forced Mary to be unfaithful to Joseph. Not me. I don't get involved with married men. I'm somewhat wild, but I would never ask the clouds to cry in order to drown humanity. I would have never allowed Abraham to be unfaithful to Sarah. What do you expect? What else? What does everyone expect? That I would be born to forgive? No, I was born to sin and never be forgiven. Perfect. Evening walk. I'll start right now.
Thanks. Yes. So why do you think this character, the writer, is having so much of a confrontation with God here? Why is she opposing right away, right off the bat? You know, I have this battle. I have this kind of complaint, you know, complain about God. Okay, what can we say about this? And we have two references to the Bible, right? I wouldn't have done this. And I think it's God forced Mary to be unfaithful. It was God that imposed his will, okay? And here God is masculine. clearly. And then I would have never allowed Abraham to be unfaithful to Sarah. So again, God, his will was more important, and he made this happen, he himself, okay? It wasn't common people like you and me. No, it wasn't like that. There was a destiny, fate imposed by God's will, right? So what is the problem here? Why? What do you think is happening? I would like to say, Jorge.
Well, it seems like she has a very conflict against men.
I would say so, okay? I would say so, that there is something here that already indicates that for the writer, you know, men seem to be authoritarian, and also things must go the way they want for things to go. Okay? The way they want it to go, it must go. And God here would be the representation of that kind of masculinity, right? That is authoritarian. I would agree with that perception. But then notice what she says also. No, I was born to sin and never be forgiven. What kind of character do you think says that? Megan. What would be a good adjective to describe what she's saying, to characterize the character that says something like that? No, I was born to sin and never be forgiven.
I think it would be like someone very like sure of themselves and know like what they are in their life.
I would agree. I think the characters is trying to give us that impression. You're not gonna tell me your lies, and I'm not gonna swallow them. I am my own person here, and this is who I am. It may be that the character is suggesting religion has been imposed on us. I'm not swallowing that Kool-Aid, okay? I am my own individual in that regard, right? But notice how also she's kind of opposing religion by saying, I was born to sin. So the sinner, she adopts the position, right, of the sinner, and the one that is kind of an outcast, right, from that kind of community. No, I'm against that. So that's why maybe my previous mention of the punk concert is not that wild after all, you know, because I sense that kind of, can we say it in English, punkiness? I don't know if that is a word. I'm making this up right now, okay? That kind of attitude, punk attitude, if you will, right? That kind of aggressive attitude. Now, one traditional stereotype of women would be, as we saw before, right, in terms of Latina women represented by Rose, was that I said that the stereotype would be that they are compliant to the guy, okay, to the will of the guy. Well, here we have the opposite character, maybe, right? No, I'm not going to be compliant from the beginning of the play, right? I am a visionary, and my visions are terrifying. So my point here would be also that maybe one typical representation, a stereotypical representation of women is that they are not raging. Also, that they should not be raging against anything. Okay. Why? Because if you are compliant, you're soft, and you are not necessarily, you know, driven by this kind of emotion that may be masculine. Let me suspect that rage can be masculine, attached traditionally, stereotypically, to males, right? In this case, I could mention, you know, rage and African-American males, rage and brown males, and so on and so forth. And how do we deal with that in a racist situation, for instance, right? Do we become polished? Do we become soft so that people would not think that we are that kind of beast threatening to, well, in the segregation times, threatening, according to the racist, threatening to white women, to be very forthcoming with you, okay? So I'm talking about, let me backtrack. Why am I talking about emotions? Because stereotypically, right, I was saying, for women are allowed some kinds of emotions. And males, it seems, also are allowed some kind of emotions, right? Should men be crying? Maybe, more depending, right? Should women, politicians, be crying in front of an audience? What will that trigger nowadays? And so on and so forth. So there are like limits to the emotions that maybe in a specific society, right? In a specific culture or history, there are limits to those emotions that can be expressed in public, maybe. So I was born to sin and never be forgiven. Okay, so the punky, right? The punky attitude. Okay, I'm not gonna swallow that. Cool. I don't know what to say, says the mother. You better not say anything. I notice what she says to the mother, which is an insult. Come on. I think you are a woman like all the rest. So what is she actually saying to the mother? What do you guys think that she's saying by saying that? Anybody?
Maybe she's just had
a
lot of bad run-ins with other people. Maybe they had a hard life, and that's why she's having this battle with God and just with everything in general.
It would seem so, yes, that there are reasons for her to behave in this manner. But, and I would agree with that. But I would say that she also is saying to the mother, you are one of those people who always, or women, I'm sorry, not just people, okay? You're one of those people who comply. You're obedient. You're obedient. Unlike me, I am disobedient. I do not comply. Okay? You are all like all the rest of the women I met. Wow. So do we have somebody so unique that she can be so different from the rest? Well, maybe so, because we have a very romantic view of characters and people, I think. And let me philosophize here for a second only. Maybe we don't want to be common. Maybe we don't want to be ordinary, because ordinary is not enough. Or maybe we are extraordinary. I don't know. Okay, why not? Okay, but I would like to ask the question at least as to, our common lives or our uncommon lives. Okay, one thing is I think more or less for sure. Okay, in my view, there might be what we call a sense of normalcy, or what is normal. In my mind, it's resounding the word norms, okay? Norms or norming. So there are norms in society, right? Stipulations in society. This is the way you should conduct your life. And then since we have those norms, right? Then there might be people who will say, especially in America, right? The place of the individual and the rights of the individual. Forget it. Those are the norms, and I'm not going to go with those norms. Okay, why? Because in America, I am my own individual. I am my own person. I have the right to be an individual because this is an important value for this culture, for this and this and this and that reasons, right? So that could be an explanation for not accepting the norms, okay, in my view. Any comments? Because I think the play has to do with that too, right? At least so far. Do we go along with the norms, normalcy, if you will, or do we go against the norm, against normalcy, into something else? Okay. Okay. The mother, notice, says on page 194, I am a mother. It's like, wow, like a basic statement, you know? I know, I can see. Your little one sleeps and sleeps and sleeps. He cries a lot. He's still very young. And now we come to a moment that is important for maybe confirming what I think Jimena said about men in relation to the writer. The writer and men and the writer. I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna say, Jorge, could you help me read, please?
So where are we right now?
Bottom of page 194. Gertrudis says, you were the one who wanted him. Oh, let's go before. The mother says, I'm a mother, okay? I'll be the mother, please be Gertrudis. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm the mother. I am a mother.
I know I can see. I know I can see. Your little one sleeps, sleeps, sleeps.
He cries a lot. He's still very young. Sometimes he exasperates me.
You were the one who wanted him, but now.
No, it wasn't me. My husband begged me, cried. He even threatened me with divorce.
I can imagine. Then you let yourself be blackmailed by that stupid husband of yours, and
9 months later, I gave birth to a little boy.
And he's the family's pride and joy?
Yes, the family's pride and joy.
I don't know why you succumb.
It goes with the territory.
Yes.
What are you going to do with the novel? And so on and so forth. Thanks. So here we have a conversation about the mother's husband, okay? Why is this moment relevant? Why do you think it's relevant? I'm going to say Kaylee.
I'm not exactly sure, but I would say it's relevant because, I mean, she talks about her past.
She being who?
The mother's like kind of talking about her past and.
What is she saying about her past? Can you say it in your own words?
What?
Can you say it in your own words, what she's saying?
The mother, well, she talks about like how her husband was gonna get divorced if she didn't have a baby.
If she did not, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Let's say you're talking to a friend and a friend tells you, or a person you're just getting to know tells you that. What is your reaction? What do you say?
It's kind of sad because like it's showing that her husband had a lot of control over her.
There you go. There you go. It seems that that's the way she's describing this situation. And let me ask you a question because Kaylee, stay with me. What about motherhood? Becoming a mom. What is happening here?
She has someone to take care of now, not just herself.
Yeah, and that's very important. And how is being a mom relevant for herself, for a person you know, for somebody? Or is it irrelevant?
I mean, I know down a line, I forget if we passed it already or things before. They talk about how like hold on. Not sure. Sorry. I mean, it's relevant, I guess. Like you have something to talk about or share thing. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I was asking you the question, putting you in a different context, just saying to you, is maybe somebody you are meeting, say in the metro, in the bus, or you have a conversation and they tell you this actually. And you think about motherhood, right? And being a mom. What is your personal approach to being a mom? That's what I'm asking you. You yourself. What does it mean to you? What would it mean to you?
It means like, I mean, you have something to take care of and something that you love, and you want that child to grow up to be something good, I would say.
Yes, that's very important. That's beautiful what you have said, okay? Because then you have a future in mind and you have expectations as a human being, right? As a female human being, or somebody who can get pregnant. Now, of course, this can get complicated, okay? I just thought of it. Nowadays, I guess what do we call that? In vitro fertilization. So you don't have to necessarily, like in your body, be carrying the baby. And it gets complex, right? It gets complex because, well, I'm going to stop there with that reflection. But if you want to add anybody something here, please do so. But yes, I'm going to dare to say this, okay? Maybe it's part of being a mom. So I'm not talking about being a dad, right? Being a mom may be a sort of a life fulfillment of sorts. It can be life fulfilling, okay? I'm talking in the abstract, okay? But maybe that's part of maybe part of people's conceptions of good life. For some people, it may be not, okay? Not necessarily I'm going to have a child nowadays. But is it relevant for women? I think so. In the conversation with Gloria Steinem in the interview, I think this was one of the most important topics for Gloria Steinem as a feminist. What happens with the reproductive rights of women, right? And this hints at precisely having babies. When, how, why, and so on and so forth, all those questions. So that the mother is so much of a mother here, maybe is suggests that she may be like a symbol, cultural symbol of something, more than just a human being as a character, right? That symbolizes perhaps motherhood up to extent, being a mom. But my little point here would be, if I am a female playwright, it seems so far, right? At least with this two, being a female character goes associated with giving birth to another human being. The first character, Rosa, was also carrying her baby, and the baby was crying at times. And Bill was saying, the baby is crying. Is somebody take care of it? And him or her? And then Bill, I remember, was saying, do you love him? Do you love him for the sake of loving him, as my mom should have done, but she didn't. So in that sense, because you also said love, and maybe I can associate love, I'm thinking of to a personal, fulfillment, life fulfillment. Something like plenitude, something like the love that I give, the more love I give, right? The more I feel that this is making sense, okay? Life is making sense, right? Life giving life to life. What could be more precious? Life giving life to life. Something like as a guy, you know, I can do maybe in different ways, but I don't have, that's complicated too. I could adopt. In my case, it wasn't that way, right? I have a child. So for me, that relationship is crucial. It defines me as well, okay? But we're talking about the mother and saying, my husband sort of forced me into this, right? He was to divorce me if I weren't going to have the baby, basically. So this is confirming the suspicions of the writer then, because she said before, right, you're like all the rest. And then the way I read page 195, and here's the family pride and joy, family's pride and joy, I read that as an irony. She's mocking, the writer's mocking the mother, okay? Because this is a cliche in the English language, okay? Pride and joy, okay? It's a cliche. Therefore, for me, it's very ironic, sarcastic, if you will, okay? So again, I am in this, in my view, I'm superior, notice, because I got this, but you didn't get it. And because you didn't get it, now see the results, okay, of your lower position in regards to your guy, okay, somehow. You let it happen. I didn't let it happen. You let it happen. Then what are you going to do with the novel, page 195? Finish it. It must be hard to write. Oh no, you only have to know how to listen carefully. It is that easy. Yes, as easy as giving birth. That's not easy. I know, it is awful, okay? And again, the writer is saying, it's not something that I would like to go through maybe, okay? I take my distance from that and from people who go through that as well. People meaning women. Okay, page 196. What is interesting to me is that they both become actors and they kind of tell stories and they act like silly girls or girls, you know, playing playfully, saying rhymes maybe or little short stories and playing together. So it's some kind of complicity is happening here between the two of them, bonding, right, together, rather than clashing against each other at this time. What is interesting to me maybe is on page 197, bottom of page 197. We could go there, 197. I'm going to ask, could somebody help me read? Anybody who would like to volunteer?
I could do it.
Thanks a lot. So I want to go to the, let's see. Please become Gertrudis, page 187. And she says, and all of a sudden Goldilocks, right? And I'll read
okay.
And I'll read as the mother. Go ahead.
And all of a sudden, Goldilocks arrived and said to her grandmother, "Grandmother, grandmother, what big eyes you have."
The better to see you with, my dear.
"What a big nose you have."
The better to smell you with, my dear.
"What big ears you have."
The better to hear you with, my dear.
"And what a big mouth you have."
The better to eat you with, my dear. Fraud, killer, where's Little Red Riding Hood? Okay, so we have a retelling here of the story, right? And this is the wolf, of course, and Little Red Riding Hood. But what is interesting to me is that in this case, let me see, Kels, who's the wolf in this conversation?
Sorry, hold on, I just put.
So the question is, who is the wolf? Who's playing the wolf in this conversation dialogue?
Oh, the mother.
Precisely. Precisely. And now we have the mother who is supposed to be kind of passive, right? Taking care of her baby. All of a sudden, playing the opposite, a very masculine symbol, right? The wolf, aggressive, violent, and probably a rapist of sorts, okay, in the story. I don't think I'm too far off by saying that. So he's the representation of the violent masculinity. And all of a sudden, she's playing that role. How come? What I would like you to do is to suspect that something else is happening, that this shifting of roles here has to do something important with the ending, right, of the conflict, the ending of the play. This is my suspicion that the roles are reversing somehow, that they are shifting roles, that the passive is becoming aggressive and the aggressive is becoming somehow passive, okay? And this shifting of roles is crucial for the play, the conflict, the climax, the resolution, okay? Then let's see if we can highlight something else. Well, I would like to highlight a moment on page 198. We have a couple of minutes, so we can do it. The mother, right, says, "Oh, I didn't know Pandora was a prince." And then let's see the replies by Gertrudis. I'm gonna ask, Lindsay, could you read? No, oh, yes. I cannot hear anything, so I don't know. Somebody, Kaylee, could you help me by reading, Kaylee?
Yeah.
So the mother goes, "Oh, I didn't know Pandora was a prince," and you're Gertrudis.
No, he was actually a degenerate transvestite who loved to discuss himself as a little Red Riding Hood, a little basket, little ball, all.
How funny. And what became of the grandmother?
She was poisoned to death after having eaten her grandmother, turned into a strawberry shortcake.
Oh, be quiet.
And Goldilocks ended up as one of those homosexuals who paraded up and down the bus. Stop.
Shut up.
What's wrong with you, huh? Oh, getting a little too bold. The Girl Scouts are going to punish you for.
Shut up, please.
I didn't know you were so sensitive.
Thanks. So the question is, why is she being so aggressive? By she, I mean the writer. Why is she using these words? And is there something changing for us when we hear the writer who was the punk, right? Who was confrontational, who was telling the mother, "You're submissive. You're like the rest. You're compliant." Any comments on the language that she's using and on what she's portraying right now on page 198? Let me highlight the words: degenerate transvestite. And then she says, she goes, and Goldilocks ended up as one of those homosexuals who parade up and down the bus stop. Jaylene, I need a comment from you.
Yeah, so she's being very blunt with her choice of words and very rude towards Gertrude.
Toward the mother, actually.
Yeah, towards mother, that's what I meant.
The mother. Yes. Anything else from somebody?
Maybe a little homophobic.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Okay. So now I'm suspicious about the writer, because if she is homophobic, if she's talking about against, the degenerate transvestites, what kind of character is she? I was kind of engaged with the character, and then she throws at me her phobia against those people. Suspicious. This is something else going on here then. And I will continue with it next class. See you Thursday. Before you go, I will then be posting the monologues for you to choose one in the forum, right? Raise your hand. I will list them with page numbers and titles of plays. Thanks. I'll see you Thursday.
Thank you, Professor. I actually have a quick question before we go.
Please, a question. Yes.
So I submitted my report on Yankee a little bit after class yesterday, but
okay.
I just realized that it didn't actually submit.
Oh.
And so now it's 9 hours overdue. Do you want me to just go ahead and submit it in Moodle again, or?
Please do so.
Okay, perfect. I will do so right after my next class.
Okay, question. Do you think that it was because there was something that you needed to click on?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that again. It very well could have been me. I don't know.
Please tell me, because that's important. I don't see things the way the students see it. So just in case I can help out somebody else, okay?
Okay, perfect. I will let you know if anything happens. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
And have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Anything else? Megan, Max, Lindsay, I don't know. Hello. If you don't have any questions, then I'm going to end the meeting now. I cannot hear, I see Lindsay and Max here, but I don't hear anything, just in case. Okay, so I'm going to end the meeting.